One of the areas I work in is sex, so I look at how people can be intimate using technology, whether that's through sex toys, whether that's through connecting to other people online, or if it's through sex robots. What happens when we live in a world with increasing amounts of technology, artificial intelligence and robots? There are two aspects to this. There's the aspect of sex toys that have been around for millennia, and then there's the sex robot, which comes from the idea of the sex doll. And I think we can do much better than the sex doll aspects of sex robots. And I think we should be making really interesting forms of sensuality and intimacy out of the technology we have. We have so many interesting materials that we can use today. So we have got fitness trackers, we can read people's brainwaves, we can take all the information and feed it into smart fabrics, into conductive paint, into all kinds of vibrating motors. We can make something really cool. So perhaps you want a sex duvet, we can do that for you. Perhaps you have a piece of responsive fabric that wraps around you and purrs or growls. Perhaps you have a bed made of breasts. Perhaps you have some kind of device with interchangeable attachments that you can use. The thing is, we've got all this technology, we just have to think of different ways to piece it together. Now, there are lots of ethical issues around sex robots. They're currently, and they do exist, they're currently just these sex dolls with a bit of animatronics and a bit of AI in them. They are really just pornified, hypersexualized mannequins of women. And I think that's really dangerous to us because it increases objectification, and it's also built for a very straight male audience, so it's not inclusive, it's not diverse. So why don't we just break out of that idea of creating humanoid robots, and that goes for really any kind of humanoid robots. Let's get out of that idea. We're very rubbish at building humanoid robots, so let's build something more interesting. Okay, so a lot of people are concerned that there has to be some kind of sacredness or purity to sex, and I think I can see how sex can be a really lovely thing between two people or more people, but masturbation is also an everyday part of life, and 95% of people will probably admit to that if you ask them. And it can also be used, we can use this technology to facilitate and enhance relationships. So I'm not worried about machines coming in to replace humans. I think it's something that we can use to enhance our lives instead. One of the things people are concerned about is privacy and security, and rightly so, because we've seen in the past couple of years smart sex toys that have been hacked. So the data has been released and it has somehow been breached, or perhaps data has been recorded and it hasn't been stored properly. And that is dangerous. And when you're dealing with someone's sensitive data, particularly sexual data, that has the potential to ruin someone's life. That has the potential to kill in certain parts of the world. So we do have to be really cautious. I think in the next 5 years, we're going to see some more interesting developments in sex toys. We're certainly getting reports that more of these commercial sex robots will be released. So far, it's only been in the past month that one has been commercially available. There is talk of bringing out a male version as well from the same company who made the female version. I don't think that market's going to go all that well. I think that's a really, really niche market that's predominantly for people with either fetishes or people looking for the companionship that a sex doll brings to them now. There's always the potential for technology to go sour. There's always the potential for outliers, for people to either abuse that technology or not know when to stop. That is always going to be there. It's there with computer games, for example, as well, or internet porn, all of those kind of things. In some ways, there's been talk recently about incel culture and how sex robots could be a solution to that. I don't think that's the case. I think that when you look at the incel forums, which I've had to do, unfortunately, you find out that although they suggest this as an alternative, they're not going to stop their misogyny just because they have some kind of sex robot. It is, as they say, it's a kind of cope. It's something that's just a substitute, and they're not going to be happy with that. We should literally embrace technology, perhaps. I think we need to be cautious, we always do. There are cases where it's not going to be good. There's always concerns about what happens if someone makes a childlike version, for example. That's an area that needs regulation because that falls under a category of images of child abuse and that kind of related legality of the system. So I think we need to be cautious about things like that. But I think we are more fearful than we should be in a lot of aspects.